Blood sugar management is one of the most important things that we need to discuss because so many people are suffering from high blood sugars and they don't even know about it. And by the time they find out, they already have some damage done. Now, what's the normal range for blood sugar? Well, anything under 100 is considered normal. And then you start getting into the pre-diabetic range, which is called impaired glucose tolerance, or IGT, when your blood sugar goes between 100 and 125. And then, of course, anything over 125 is considered diabetic. However, I think we need to really look at this thing called insulin resistance, because that's really where the problem starts. Because when you have insulin resistance, your blood sugar is going to start going up, because your cells are not able to pull in the blood sugar. They're not able to utilize it. So it stays in the blood, and it starts to create all sorts of issues, inflammatory problems throughout the entire body. But when your blood sugar goes over 125 consistently, you're officially a diabetic. But what's really happening is your cells are just not responding to insulin anymore because they're getting signals from the brain that there's enough energy, don't need any more. So your cells start shutting down the ability to pull in that blood sugar because they do not need it. So what can you do to help bring your blood sugar down if you are in that situation? Well, number one, you must do intermittent fasting. Okay? There's some really interesting research on this. One is called the O-Matter, and basically they took pre-diabetics, type 1, type 2, and even some that were on dialysis, and they did something very, very simple. They just took these individuals and they put them on a program where they were only eating one meal a day, and after 3 months, they found that every single one of them, regardless of where they started, ended up with a normal blood sugar. Their A1C went down. Some of them even came off of their medication. Another study called the DIRECT study, which I'll also put the links down below, looked at type 2 diabetics. And again, they just put them on a low-calorie diet, one meal a day. And after 6 months, 60% of them no longer had diabetes. How about another one called the XEND study? This one was really interesting because they took type 2 diabetics, but they put them on a plant-based diet, vegan diet, one meal a day. And after 18 months, 86% of them no longer had diabetes. Now, how does this work? Why does eating less frequently help you with your blood sugar? Well, when you eat, your blood sugar goes up. That's obvious. But when you don't eat, your blood sugar goes down. When your blood sugar is low, you tap into something called gluconeogenesis, where your liver produces new glucose from other things like protein and fats. So when you don't eat, you're tapping into this other fuel source that doesn't involve any blood sugar. It's kind of like turning the key in a car that switches over to the reserve fuel tank. Your body is smart enough to do that. The next thing that happens when you stop eating is your body produces ketones. Now, ketones are from the fat that's being broken down, and this now becomes an alternative fuel source for your brain, so you're not running just on glucose anymore. You're running on ketones, and guess what? Ketones actually have a very powerful anti-inflammatory effect, so by switching over to ketones, you're going to reduce inflammation. The other thing that happens when you stop eating is your body produces something called human growth hormone, or HGH, which is another anti-inflammatory. So you're going to reduce inflammation from the ketones, and you're going to reduce inflammation from HGH. So you're going to get rid of that insulin resistance because you're decreasing the amount of inflammation. And that alone can turn this whole thing around. So if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, or you just have insulin resistance, you've got to start doing intermittent fasting. The question is, how do you do this safely? Well, you do it by following the plan laid out in this video right here. Check it out.